Set. 4, 3, 1.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday Morning Quarterback. Today we are four pastors who love ministry, leadership, and sports. Today we have Chattanooga's own Dr. Ternae Jordan from Mount Canaan. Dr. Jordan, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. How you all doing?
We're great. And Dad, we needed to bring another Cowboy fan to help us lick our wounds. How's it going in the Music City as we lick our wounds today?
It's doing okay. I'm grateful that Dr. Jordan's here so we can gang up on Adam somehow. Even though we lost, we were going to win today.
I'm sure Adam's going to find a way to attack our quarterback. Adam, how's it going in Virginia? Is it getting cold there yet?
Yeah, it's kind of warm today, but it is a good day in spite of many sports realities going on in my life. And we'll touch on a few of those here in a moment.
Oh, goodness. Well, fellas, I hope y'all had a good church day. I know we did. But as good as my day was, it ended in gloom and doom. And so, it was a tough day for us Cowboy fans. We were hopeful, and we had a lot to hang our hat on, but it didn't end the way we wanted to. So, Dad, why don't you start us off with your thoughts, and then Dr. Jordan, I'll pass it to you. What is your takeaway from our Cowboys as they suffered defeat last night?
I just want to say, last week, I banged on the table and stuck with my chest up high the Cowboys would win. And they did everything but win. So, hey, at the end of the day, this is a long journey. We're playing for the playoffs. And I think for me, I was able to see my quarterback show that he can contend with the big boys. So at the end of the day, I believe with all my heart, we're going to be in the playoffs. I really believe that we're the third best team in the NFC with the capabilities of being the best team. And so all I want is a shot. I think we're going to get a good shot. We have the remaining of the year to play some good, tough teams to kind of toughen up a little bit, tighten some things down. Our defense needs to step up a little bit. We need to get a number 2 wide receiver, get our running game going. But I think that we saw some real progress, and we will make some noise in the playoffs this year.
Dr. Jordan, what did you think about the Cowboys yesterday?
Well, I'm going to ride with Joe. My observations is that we won in everything last night except the final score. I think if you give us a couple of plays, which only a yard, it would have been a total different story yesterday. We had 2 small inches with that shortness on the touchdown and a couple of other short plays. I'm excited. I don't know why we don't have a second receiver because Brandon Cook is out there. I don't know why we keep going to Galloway. So we're right there with a couple of inches from being the best.
Oh man,
Adam looks like he's ready to explode.
All right, Doctor.
Be objective.
All right, Dr. Denny, give us the truth serum here. What did you see?
Never cease to amaze me. I am fighting back throughout Joe's soliloquy. I use the Stephen A. Smith term, his soliloquy there. You guys, so let me ask you this, and I get it. Dak played pretty good.
Pretty good. He played his butt off.
All right, so here's my question. What about what Dak did last night is any different than what we have been seeing him do since he came into the league?
That's what we've been saying.
We know that he can be a decent quarterback, but he's not ever going to get you over the hump. We know that Dallas, their roster, over the last 8 years, they can hang with the tough teams throughout the regular season. But here's what I want to go ahead and make a little prophecy here. As well as he played last night, and he may play better in the next regular season matchup, when the playoffs come, we know what's going to happen. That game last night, that'll be the farthest thing from your memory come January, February, because he will not show up like that come playoff time.
Oh, and I'll say in the words of Stephen A. Smith, the utter blasphemy that you just dribbled out of your mouth. Man, he was converting on third down over and over. fourth down, over and over. The refs working against them. Gallup making drops, though. Right tackle, Terrence Steele, was just, he was just letting them blow by, and he just showed that resiliency. Now, there was some questionable play calling, too, in that red zone. I went back and watched it. Everybody's saying you can't take a sack there. He didn't see it coming from the right side.
A second and a half.
I think he outplayed Jalen Hurts. He showed that he can be on that level. Now, what you guys do is you play both sides of the fence. You say, oh, he's average. But then when he does show you, he's like that. He's not elite, but he's like right at the top behind the top 7. So when we say he's top 10, at his peak, he can be that. And so I think, at the end of the day, as much flack as Dak catches, you got to give him props when he plays good. And so if he plays like that, we can win a Super Bowl with him. So we'll see. He very, very different story than San Fran. And so
you know what it reminded me of? And I've never been all out on Dak. It's just that playoff time. But it reminded me of last year when they beat Tampa Bay. Yeah. Dak played phenomenal. But then they ran into the buzzsaw with the 49ers.
Now, different team, though. That Tampa Bay was limping in the playoffs. And, most people said the Eagles are the best team in the league now other than the Ravens. So, I don't know. Adam, what other games? I know we had a few. Let me throw out a few. We had the Chiefs-Dolphins. We didn't get to watch that because y'all were preaching. But I went and sped through that game. The Chiefs, we saw that defensive front, took it to Miami. Miami's a finesse team over in London. They were playing, and they slowed them down a little bit. The Ravens, I think they have ascended to the top team in the NFL, even though the Eagles won last night. We got the Raiders story coming in. Josh McDaniels out. The Raiders come alive. And then obviously last night, I think we all foresaw it coming. Dad, your Bengals were looking good. What did you guys think about the rest of the slot of games yesterday?
I got 2 words. Joe Burrow. Here he comes again. That is a bad man. And I tell you, and I'm watching the Ravens. The Ravens are good. They're good in defense, running. They got, an MVP quarterback. The difference is I have seen Joe Burrows stare down the Kansas City Chiefs and beat them. Baltimore, they fold in the playoffs. So I've got to see Lamar in the playoffs. He's not proven that yet. But Joe Burrow, I think they are coming alive. They're confident. They believe they could beat anybody, including the Chiefs. The things about the Chiefs is they got their defense is probably the best I've seen them in years. Let's kind of see how that offense progresses. So we've got a lot of teams beginning to separate themselves. And by the way, I think that Dallas is one of them.
Adam, what stuck out to you?
Yeah, I was going to say the Bills too. I did side with Joe in the preseason picks, and I've got them going to and winning the Super Bowl. So that was, I don't want to say surprising or anything, but Buffalo obviously is who they are, and that's a solid team, and they pretty much had that game in hand most of the game. But guys, you know what I'm likely going to say here. After last week and my Panthers get their first win, and my big fear back before the draft was CJ Stroud was going to be amazing. My goodness. He broke an NFL record for yards, and he threw, I think, 5 touchdown passes. I am in a state of just absolute mourning. This is while Bryce Young, who we have sacrificed our future for the next 3 years, throws 2 pick sixes and 1 more on top of that.
Oh, man.
I'm just like, I don't know, guys. Like, I might have to get off this podcast for a year or 2 because this is going to be years.
That guy you were talking about.
Talking about CJ Stroud with the Texans. He's a Panther fan, so he was like, I want Bryce Young, but I'm afraid CJ Stroud might be better, and we're seeing it. Yep.
So let me ask you this, Adam. Do you think that you guys made the wrong pick?
Absolutely, right now. Yeah, absolutely.
I do too, yeah.
Okay. So let's segue. We'll segue to college for a minute. But
hey, we can't go there yet.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Jump in.
What about Josh Dobbs yesterday?
Yes.
See what a game that guy played against Atlanta to bring them back in the final moments. Man, I was having flashbacks when he was in Tennessee.
Yeah. So we got a Tennessee Vol in here. So let's segue to this. This will kind of, Dr. Jordan, we love when sports and ministry segue together. So we'll shift to college for a minute. Dr. Jordan is a University of Tennessee alumni, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, sir. Now, everybody knows and when you talk about football and you talk about defensive guys, that Mount Rushmore, there's one name that always comes up, and Chattanooga's finest, Reggie White, coming out of Chattanooga. And so, Dr. Jordan, you just talking to my dad over the years of sports history, and we always said, man, I always say, I don't know who that guy's youth pastor or where he came from, but somebody did their job correct. And then one day it hit me. I said, wait a second. He's from Chattanooga. I bet you money he came from Mount Canaan. Now, you're a UT alum. He was y'all's time kind of crossed over there. Can you share a little bit about him? You taught him at Howard High School, and seeing him play in Tennessee and coming through your church. Can you give us a little peek behind the curtain there?
Yeah, Reggie was always a monster, but he was one of the biggest teddy bears you ever met when you met him off the football field. His mother attended our church, and Reggie was between our church and his grandmother's church. I served when I was younger and running for ministry. I served as an insurance agent for his grandmother. So I remember Reggie. During the time that Reggie was at Howard High School, I was there teaching a marketing course and had the opportunity to spend some time with him and Coach Pulliam, who was also a defensive lineman at the University of Tennessee. He had come to Chattanooga at Howard to coach them. So every chance I get, I like to brag a little bit that myself and Coach Pulliam and another guy by the name of Lerone Jennings that you guys probably know kind of encouraged him to go to Tennessee, and the rest is history. As a young minister, he did attend Mount Canaan under my father. I wasn't there a lot of the time that he was at Mount Canaan, but he did come up under, and there's never been a finer guy. When I moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, I was involved in Stop the Madness. I was burying kids. It was Reggie during his time with the Green Bay Packers that he came for me every year for our youth, for the city of Fort Wayne. One of the guys that grew up in our church was working in Green Bay, and him and Reggie were very close. But there's never been a greater guy to come out of here and to represent us so well.
Hey, Joseph, let me say one thing.
Yeah.
Reggie White, to me, at least in my age bracket, and it may be true for all ages, but he was the first outspoken Christian athlete that came out and publicly, with his chest up high, professed Christ as Savior. And, for me, I was just, coming out of high school, graduated in 90. And man, what an influence, particularly because I was a Cowboy fan and he was at Philly, and then he transferred to Green Bay. But he was the first one that I remember as an athlete that was so, not just, hey, thank you, Lord, but he was outspoken. And since that time, there have been many, many Christian athletes that have been as outspoken. But I think, at least in my time, he was the first.
Reggie never made a secret about his faith and his belief in God. He gave God the glory and the praise every time he got a chance.
Man, and he knew his Bible too. It's one thing to be a Christian athlete, but you could tell he spent his time in the Word. He was discipled well, and so that was awesome. Hey, kind of let's segue real quick to NBA, and we'll shift gears back down. Adam, I know you've been watching Victor Wembanyama of the Spurs, and there's been a lot of questions coming in of how high his ceiling can go. Why don't you start us, and then Dr. Jordan, you can give your thoughts too.
Yeah, well, I texted you and said we have to talk about this young man because, he had all the hype, but it's almost like as soon as you tune in and say, all right, is the hype real? For me, I didn't even have to watch him score a basket because that guy out there, he's making Kevin Durant look small. And, of course, Kevin Durant has been making people look small for 15 years because he plays out on the perimeter. But, they played against Phoenix, and Wembanyama had a good game, and they almost came back and beat them. but then they played Phoenix again, and he just dominated that whole game. And this is how old is he? 19, maybe 18. You know, you're not supposed to be able to do that in your first handful of games, particularly against the likes of a Kevin Durant. I can't remember if Booker was playing that game. I think he was, though.
He was Booker,
But
yeah.
man, you know, I'm still in a state of mourning here because my Panthers did what they did, and who had the number 2 pick in the NBA draft this year?
Charlotte.
Of course, my lowly Charlotte Hornets. And, so I'm watching this young man, and it looks like they have struck gold. It looks like he's going to be playing at this level for at least 15 years. And the ceiling is the roof, as MJ once said.
Yep.
Just means the potential is through the roof.
Dr. Jordan, what do you think?
You know, I haven't had much opportunity to see this young man this year, except on Sports Center, and it seems like he's doing a phenomenal job. I'm still stuck in football season trying to shift to basketball. But I want to say this, guys. The team that I'm watching this year is the LA Clippers.
Oh, yes.
My cousin was their number 1 draft choice.
Really?
Brown, Kobe
Wow.
Bryant.
Wow.
That is my cousin who played for Missouri,
Wow.
who came to Tennessee and stuck the dagger in our heart last.
Yeah.
But I've been following them, and they keep adding people like Horton and those guys, which I'm thinking is pushing him closer to the other end of the bench. But you guys keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
This kid, this summer in one of the summer leagues, scored like 35 points with 7 threes.
Wow.
So, he's a great ball player, but I've got to kind of stay focused right now these next few weeks to see what Tennessee is going to do in football and what my Cowboys going to do the next few weeks, and then I'm going to turn my eyes to and I'll look toward the Spurs for a moment.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, while you're talking about Tennessee, I know we had a tough they had a tough game in Tuscaloosa. They came out looking good in the first half and then laid an egg in the second half. What are your thoughts on the state of Tennessee football? Do you think they can get to that SEC championship barrier, or do you think they can maybe pull out a win against Georgia in a few weeks? What are you seeing so far?
Was that question to me?
Yes, sir.
I need to pray before I answer this.
Quick to hear, slow to speak.
I know you guys want to hear the answer I want to give. But I've been watching Georgia here, and Tennessee will get all of my prayers. And I think it's going to take more than my prayers for us to get across the hump. But I still believe we've got a great opportunity to end the season for a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day 6 Bowl. So
Yep. Hey, I tell you what, Georgia was looking a little suspect in the first half against Missouri the other day. So we had some close ones. We have that one and Florida State. And I don't remember a time where college football has ever been so wide open. So let's move on to our preacher picks, and Dad and Adam, you can wrap us up. Adam, we got really, there's not many good games this week, but 2 in college and pro that jumped out. Y'all can take which one you want. We got the 49ers versus the Jags. The Niners are coming off on a 3-game skid, and the Jags are ascending. And then in college, we got Michigan with all their controversy, and then Penn State coming off a butt whooping from Ohio State. Adam, well, what are you looking at?
Well, first shout out to my Liberty Flames, ranked number 25 in the nation. It's a big deal, but we've seen that again, so shout out to them. But you took it right out of my mouth, Joseph. Here's what I'm looking at, and this is more me hoping than anything, but maybe there's some legitimacy to it. I want to see either Michigan or Georgia lose this weekend, and I think at least one of them will happen. As you said, Michigan has all of this stuff going on in the program, and maybe, just maybe, some of their players are already thinking about Ohio State. And Penn State, every year, they almost beat Ohio State. They almost beat Michigan. It's like literally clockwork. Every year, they almost beat one of them. Maybe this year is the year. And then you've, of course, got Lane Kiffin. You always got to watch him. He's got Ole Miss doing well. And Georgia, they barely escaped Missouri. And remember, that happened to them last year too. So I hope at least one of these can pull off an upset and create further parity for the landscape moving forward.
Good. Dad, what do you think?
I'm watching the Pac-10. I think you have two tremendous teams in Washington and Oregon. Their offense is just unbelievable. Georgia, they've kind of been hanging around, and you have to be fearful of that because they kind of did that last year, and they know how to put that pedal down. So, until they're beaten, you just got to consider them the favorite. I really believe that Michigan is a very, very good team. There's no proof in that because they've not played anybody. We're going to find out with Penn State. Now, if they, I can see them winning by 21 points, 24 points, because if they do that, then we know when Ohio State and Michigan pair up, chances are the Michigan will take them out. And so there's going to open up a slot. And so I'm curious to see who will come out from the Pac-10. Will it be Oregon or will it be Washington? So I'm keeping my eyes on that. But I think this year's playoffs is going to be a lot of fun to watch. With Florida State, will probably undefeated. You'll have an SC team, probably Georgia or Alabama, and then a Pac-10 team, and then either Michigan or Ohio State. So you'll have one from each conference, and then we get to see them collide, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep, will be a lot of fun. Deion's been licking his wounds up there in Colorado. Started off hot, but they're taking a fall. Dad, who you think's real quick? Niners or Jags? Who you picking?
I'm picking the Jags.
Ooh, 4 losses in a row.
Yep.
I mean, I hope so. I want to see it, but man, I don't know about that. But man, a lot of good sports going on right now, fellas. Let's segue to ministry and leadership. And Dr. Jordan, we love talking about sports because so many pastors, sports is an outlet for us, and so we can literally go from talking about, hey, did you see that play, to hey, what are you preaching on tomorrow? And so, just a little before you talk. We got to spend a little time with you when we were at Tennessee Temple and see all that God was doing in Mount Canaan. And I know you were celebrating 40 years of ministry and have been at Mount Canaan for over 25 years. And Adam and I are, we just got done with our doctorate. So let me say this too, guys. Dr. Jordan has a MDiv from Harvard. Okay, so that's pretty respectful. I don't know if I could do that. And and you've been a staple in the Chattanooga community. And one of the things, just from knowing you up close a little bit and then seeing you from afar, you've always been a pastor to pastors. And so when you talk about some of the staples and people of influence in Chattanooga, your name always comes up in all the different circles. And so just an extended thank you for all you've done and mean to our community. And so if you would, today we're going to talk a little bit about your ministry and the book that you've written. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Talking about transformational leaders. And so before we get into that, if you would just share a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your family, and then we can jump in on how Christians and pastors can learn to be transformational leaders.
Awesome. Again, guys, thank you all for just including me today. This has been a lot of fun because we are talking about two of my favorite things. I love sports. It is my outlet. It's probably about the only outlet I have other than ministry. But my father, Pastor Melvin Jordan, pastored the Mount Canaan Baptist Church for 40 years. So I was raised in the church. I got saved at 6 years old. And the amazing thing that many people don't believe, I believed I received a call on my life to preach the gospel at 7 years old. And once I got saved, I really became a student of the word, growing up, following and watching my father. I was determined not to preach the word, though. So my career has taken me from the top to the bottom. I've been everything in my professional life. For the Lord allowed me to kind of run from the ministry for about 20 years. I served as a teacher coming out of the University of Tennessee, went back to Brainerd High School where I graduated from 3.5 years earlier. And I taught there for a couple of years, totally dissatisfied, left the classroom, went to work for Johnson & Johnson Products. and became a territory manager, was promoted, shift off to Southern Indiana, Southern Illinois, Western Kentucky as my territory. Did that miserably for very successfully, but miserable because I just knew I wasn't fulfilling my calling. Ended up coming back to Chattanooga and receiving my call. Excuse me. I pastored a church here in Chattanooga, Bethlehem Baptist Church, over in North Chattanooga Church that was 100 years old. And I get my PhD from there because they taught me a lot those 5 years. And then once the Lord found out, I had figured out that these were not my people, but they were his people, and my job was to really preach to them. He says, I think you got it now. And he moved me to Fort Wayne, Indiana for 15 years. Those 15 years were really some of the largest developmental years. It was there that I had the opportunity to attend Harvard and not just become the pastor of the Greater Progressive Baptist Church there that had 25 members when we left 15 years later. There were 2,500, and they were doing some amazing things in the community. The only reason I left is because my dad retired here, developed Alzheimer's, and the Lord convinced me that I needed to come back and take care of my family. So my dad had retired 2 years, 2002, and in 2004, Mount Canaan was still looking for a pastor. My dad developed Alzheimer's, and the Lord promised me that if I came back and was faithful to him, I told the Lord 2 things when he was challenging me to come back. Lord, look at what you and I have done here in Fort Wayne. And he clearly said to me, Ternae, you had absolutely nothing to do with this. I said, okay, Lord. And then the second thing I said, but Lord, the vision that you have given me, I'm not sure I have the mindset of the people in the Mount Canaan Baptist Church to do the things that you, I think you're calling me to do. And his response was, I will send you what you need when it is time. He never told me it was going to be 20 years, but we're there now. I really to see God fulfilling his purpose. Yeah.
That's super cool. Dad, when you hear that term transformational leadership, what jumps to mind, whether in the church circles or in the public sector doing life on mission?
There's a lot there. The first thing that comes to mind is, and it may sound a little funny, but it's self-awareness. I think it's real important to know who you are down deep.
That's deep.
And then allow God to direct you. Because I think when we're not self-aware, we just float, or I want to learn this, or I want to do that, or I want to become this. I think it's important to have a self-examination of yourself in your self-awareness. So you know who you are, you know where your strengths are, you know where your gifts are. And then you put yourself with the Lord's direction in the direction of his choosing that goes hand in hand. So it's not just something that you just kind of blow around and then you become a transformational leader, or you become who you want. It's a step-by-step process that I think it's important that you grasp and then put yourself on that direction, and then God will put you on a trajectory. So there's a team that he leads and we follow, but it's not just something that you just walk and you get there. It's something that you have to take part of and take ownership of. Allow God to lead you, but you have a part in it.
That's good. Adam, what comes to mind? Go ahead, Doctor. Go ahead.
It sounds like he's read Crossing Jordan. This is the perfect explanation of why I've accepted the fact that I'm a transformational leader. This book is about my life. It's about looking back over my life, even the years that I was running from leadership, understanding that the journey that I was on, God had his hands on it preparing me. The interesting thing that Joe said is that I've been pastoring for 40 years, but it wasn't until crossing Jordan that I realized who I truly was. Because for the past 39 years, I was being what, number one, I thought I knew the Lord had called me to be, and what other people had said I was going to be, and who they said I was. But it wasn't until I started writing Crossing Jordan that I had to go back and reflect on the places and the situations that I've been in where God brought me through, and finding out that those challenges and those rivers and those stones that come out of the Jordan River, that we're supposed to remember that God was using them to transform me so that I could share that wisdom with leaders who have coming along behind me. So thanks, Joe. Man, I should have had you write the preface.
Adam, what comes to mind when you hear transformational leadership?
You know, I'm not too sure, because I feel like we would need to define what those terms mean, but I like what Joe said about, you know, a basic understanding of what that might mean is being self-aware, because there's a sense in which we all want to transform, to be transformed, and then to see others be transformed. But it takes a good level of self-awareness to know how to do that and at what rate and what pace to do that, regardless of what ministry context you're in. And, you know, I can't help but think about, this may be from left field a bit, but, you know, Steph Curry and Draymond Green, they are both some of the best leaders in the NBA as far as getting the job done and getting the W. But boy, what a difference of personality and even their approach to the game. You know, one is soft-spoken, mild manner, behind the scenes, the hardest worker, but really doesn't get out in front and speak, that kind of stuff. And then you've got Draymond, who's just the complete opposite of that. You know, he talks nonstop, and he's obviously very, very brash often when he does that. You know, and I think that's true of leaders. There are leaders. It's not that they don't do, they only do one thing well. It's just they know what their strengths are and they lean into those. And I think to be self-aware is to realize who you are. You know, for some of us, some pastors, it may be you are kind of that crossing the Jordan guy. You've got a vision out in front of you. And for most people that are beside you, behind you, it's brand new. And God has called you uniquely and gifted you uniquely to cast that vision and to get out ahead and lead your people. But for many, we are more like reformers. So kind of Nehemiah, there are those that were building, and then also they have something to keep and defend off on the side. So whatever your leadership giftings are, you need to be aware of those. And it's not that you neglect doing other things, but you need to be aware of those and reach your full God-given potential as you do.
Let me add one thing real quick, Joseph.
Yeah.
I remember as a young leader, you know, a lot of times we see Michael Jordan and we go out and get the sneakers because we want to be Michael Jordan, or we want to be Troy Aikman, or we want to be Clint Eastwood. When we have a natural bent to see and find heroes, and then we want to be those heroes. Well, that happens even in the pastorate. And I remember for me, you know, I was trying to put together a sermon like Adrian Rogers, or I like the way Dr. Falwell led. And those things are fine if they can encourage you and inspire you. But when you try to take on their role and their identity, it really can cause you to take a step back. And once I really begin to tip into the waters of transformational leadership is when I realized, okay, be who you are, and be comfortable with who you are, and be comfortable with weaknesses that you have, and know your strengths. And when that happened and I got comfortable with me and unleashed the power of God within me to actually do and be, because now my goals were coming from God. There weren't these goals that Adrian Rogers had or Dr. Falwell. And then once you begin to meet your goals and do the things that God has called you to do, then you find that confidence, and then it, you know, the spigots open up where the Holy Spirit can use you because you're just empty, free, and comfortable with who you are.
So basically, you're talking about how when I try to emulate Dr. Jordan or Tony Evans in my preaching style, I just can't quite measure up the same. Hey, Dr. Jordan, real quick, coming up on 40 years of ministry, talking about leadership, well, let's put on our pastor's hats for a minute. As you look back and reflect on your ministry or your time at Mount Canaan, is there any, sometimes we, in different seasons of the life, the Lord shows us different things. Is there any leadership lessons or key takeaways that you're like, okay, now I can see the real priorities or this, or some of the leadership struggles or challenges, or what kind of jumps in your mind when you talk about pastors and leading and the things of value, would you say?
One of the biggest challenges for leadership is that if you've never followed, it makes it very difficult to lead. And one of the challenges that I'm seeing in the ministry is that there are a lot of people who are trying to lead and shepherd sheep that have never been fathered or shepherded themselves. I think for me, that is what has been my greatest gift. Other than the salvation of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I had Melvin Jordan, my father, and that's why the book is really called Crossing Jordan. It's not so much about crossing me as much as it was of crossing him, having a leader who truly loved God and who truly loved people, that I was able to walk. I didn't really have to find the path. All I had to do was walk in his footsteps. And I think, and I guess for me, as I look back over my 40 years and look at even the landscape of today, it's important that you have mentorship. It's important that you have someone to emulate, not be like, but at least have a pattern. I've been really studying over the last couple of years the leadership of Jesus. I think we've gotten caught up in wanting to have big ministries and having mega ministries, and we'll say we're following Christ. Well, Jesus never had a big church. As a matter of fact, Jesus only had 12 members in his church the whole 3.5 years that he was on earth, mentoring these 12 young men. And they all had different gifts, different talents, and different struggles. But Jesus, by spending time with them, was able to transform them to the point that what they did, we're still preaching and teaching about it every day and every Sunday. And so for me, watching my father and having that father's mantle, having the ability to, I never had to question anyone. Whenever I had a problem, I never had to go to somebody where I wondered if they were telling me the right thing or the wrong thing. If my dad said it, that's all I had to do was do it, because I know he had my best interest. And so as I look back at that, I start taking those nuggets. I called it Crossing Jordan because my dad always wanted to write a book. And in his letter, you got to remember, this guy grew up picking cotton in Alabama. I mean, he wasn't college educated, and yet God called him, and he furthered his education, and he built the Mount Canaan Baptist Church into what he handed over to me. And so just to go back and just pick up his wisdom and knowledge. And I want to say this. For me, transformational leadership is not knowledge. It is not knowledge. I think we have a lot of people that go and get degrees and they got knowledge and they think they can lead. But really, wisdom is knowledge and experience. You got to rub the two up against each other in order to be truly transformed, so that you can transform others. And I think that that's a challenge, not only in our secular world or in our corporate world, but I think it's a challenge in the church a lot of times, because we have people leading who have read the book, but the book hasn't had the opportunity to read them. And if we don't allow the two to come together, wisdom comes from God. Knowledge comes from the book or other things that we study. So you got to bring them together to really be transformed. And then we get to that person where we have that experience even with God. And that's when we better understand who we are. And we can hand that back down like Jesus did with the 12.
That's good. Being a transformational leader means being self-aware. So, Dr. Jordan, we appreciate it. Get his book. It's out. Crossing Jordan. Looking forward to reading it. Thank you for all that you do for us and our community. You have a great day, sir.
Hey, guys, thank you all for inviting us in. This has been a joy. Love you.
Go Cowboys.